Well, the NFL Combine has come and gone, and the Ohio State Buckeyes certainly proved their worth. A number of guys stood out. A number of guys still have some work to do as they get into the draft season. But looking backwards at the Ohio State Buckeyes, they got 2 weeks until the start of spring ball, and we start to reset the offensive side of the ball, looking at the quarterback position and the running back position. We get into all of it tonight on the Buckeye Breakdown podcast.
We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today. Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. This is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
And welcome in, everybody, and a good evening here on the Buckeye Breakdown podcast. Anthony Moeglin alongside my partner and former Buckeye, Kevin Weiking. We're back with you here live tonight, talking Ohio State football, what we love to do here. So appreciate everyone who's jumping in with us live, whether you're on Twitter, X, or whether you're on YouTube. Really appreciate the support. Remember to like and subscribe if you like hanging out with us tonight. And Kev, we are coming off the heels of what was a really fun week in Indianapolis. And that's where we're going to start because the Ohio State Buckeyes kind of dominated the scene in Indy. We had a couple guys out in Indianapolis, and every single day it felt like Ohio State either had the most guys, working out for a particular position group, or they had the best performing guys, whether it was the defensive line up front, JT, Jack, Ty, and Tyleek, or whether it was Quinshon Judkins really bolstering his draft stock along with Travion Henderson, or whether it was Will Howard, a couple question marks coming out of the combine for him. But there are some thoughts around how those workouts are kind of put together and what those guys really do. And I think that some of the Buckeyes benefited from it, but others may not have benefited quite as much.
I think it's a really dumb and outdated thing that we do in the football calendar. I mean, the guys probably appreciate it because it's like an exclusive event, but like, what do they really learn that much about these guys? Like, yeah, you look at, I mean, we had running backs outrunning Christian McCaffrey. Are they really going to outperform Christian McCaffrey on a football field? There were quarterbacks outrunning Patrick Mahomes. You ever see Patrick Mahomes run the football game? He actually looks somewhat deceivingly fast and gets a lot of rushing yards. So that's why I think this is such an outdated, stupid thing. That's why so many people do pro days, because the other side of it is like, look at Will Howard. Everyone's like, Will Howard didn't complete passes, blah, 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 nonsense. If you think about it, like, I mean, Shedeur Sanders talked about it. Like, you're not throwing to receivers you know. The amount of time you spend in the offseason developing timing, developing how long it takes someone to run a specific route is condensed into a one-day event that I think is just so dumb. Like Lamar Jackson did bad on his pro day, did bad at his combine, dropped to 32, and he's a 2-time, 3-time MVP. I mean, I think it's just such a nonsense, outdated thing that they have these guys do. That's just a money grab for the NFL.
Yeah, that's what it's unfortunately turned into, right? It's turned into a TV spectacle, right? I think at some point, you go back a handful of years, and it was important, right? Before you had this incredible transfer of information that in the world we live in now, like you needed to get all the guys together to get workouts in front of these guys. But now it's like, holy cow, I can run 40 yards at Ohio State the same way I can run 40 yards in Indianapolis, the same way that Travis Hunter can run a 40 in Colorado. Like all of it, you don't have to do this condensed thing where you get everybody together. The other part is, Kev, and you kind of touched on this, well, not on air before we went live, but a handful of Buckeyes didn't even work out, right? You look at Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau, those guys go, they get measured, they do all their interviews, but they don't even work out because the fallout is what's kind of happened with Will Howard of, hey, if you don't show up well and do really well in a tough environment, you talked about it last week, you're exhausted, right? You're tired as hell. And then you're required to put on an athletic feat that maybe you're not prepared to do. And the fallout, the risk far outweighs the reward in many circumstances. And a lot of our guys didn't even work out. And you kind of lived it in your days, right, with the guys you played with. But I think that also should play a factor in, hey, at some point, this combine it's not even a combine. It's going to be, hey, go meet with some teams and then go home.
Right. I mean, like John Ross ran the fastest time anyone had in the 40 since Chris Johnson. He played in the NFL for, I don't know, actually, that's worth a Google. Is he even still in the NFL? He is. He just won a Super Bowl. Great. Look at me. But it might be back soon. But then look at someone like Nate Ebner, who didn't get invited to the combine and spent an absurd amount of time in the NFL as a special teams guy. Like, that's the difference. I just think it's dumb. It's a money grab. Some guys improve their stock. 90% of them decrease their stock. Just invite these guys out they do it for private equity firms and investment banking firms. They call it bid day or whatever it is. I don't even know, where it's just a billion interviews. Like, do that with these. Like, that's what you have them go through a medical exam and then have them do that. But the NFL never do it because they get advertising money to do the combine every year. I just think you're going to see more and more big name players backing out, similar to how you're seeing the spring game evolve, of them being like, I don't need to do this. Like, why risk a chance of pulling a hammy sprinting 40 yards? Why risk a chance of blowing out a knee jumping 40 inches? Like, I think it's dumb, outdated, and just overall stupid.
Mm.
Yeah, glad I could.
Yeah, and the one thing that always.
No, glad I could brighten up the day right there. Yeah, apologies.
Yeah, there we go. We love it. We know. But what I will say is this: you touched on it just a second ago. The important one is the pro days, right? And all the guys are still going to do the pro days. And I think the pro days are the ones where it's like, okay, that's where you can really show it. And to Kevin, you mentioned it a little bit ago. When you're throwing the football, especially, you're talking wide receivers, you're talking quarterbacks, like they have such chemistry with each other. Not only had they played, 10 game or whatever, 16, 18 games with each other now, but you've practiced day in and day out for years. So you have that of not only the routes that you're running, but also the guy who's throwing you the football and or catching the football. So I think that's really important. And then, you experienced that, you get some of the big hog mollies, right? Where they're lifting in front of their boys. Like, you guys come out and support, the team can come support it. And you're in a really cool environment where everyone's kind of pulling for each other. So think that is, those will always stick around, at least for the time being, for sure. But I do agree with you. The combine is going to get a little outdated here. So the date to keep on your calendar, March 26th, is when Ohio State's Pro Day is going to take place down in Columbus. And you can bet your bottom dollar that there's going to be just about a scout from every single team in the NFL there, probably a handful of head coaches, probably a couple GMs down there, because these guys down at Ohio State are, the best of the best, the cream of the crop. So that's coming up on March 26th. So we'll keep you guys alerted as we get a little bit closer. What's also coming up, Kev, is the start of spring ball. Okay, so we talked about this a couple weeks back. Ohio State decided, because of their long playoff run, that they're going to delay the start of spring ball. It's actually going to kick off here in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today, on March 17th. So, Kev, as you're kind of wrapping up, put yourself back in player mindset, right? You're wrapping up off-season workouts. You're starting to get a little nervous for spring ball. You're starting to get a little excited, a little anxious. I know it depends on kind of where you fall in that depth chart, but what was your mindset going into March practice?
It was a little bit of both. You're excited to get out there, but you're exhausted at this point. You're looking forward to it. Like, you're looking forward to, I don't know how to phrase it. Like, you just finished a long day out mowing the field, and you got to come in and feed the cattle. Like, it's like, it's better.
Farmer Kev. Hey, welcome everybody. It's Farmer Kev.
I don't know how else I had a few other examples, but we're going to leave those there. I don't know. It's just, I think it's different. That's the only way to describe it, but it helps a lot of people. And it helps kids learn. It helps guys learn that are slow learners, for that matter. Yeah. Like, you look at different people, and then you look at other teams, like the upcoming spring schedule is altered. Like, they don't see a need for spring games anymore. We talked about it a couple pods ago, but notable teams that have canceled: Nebraska, North Carolina State, Texas, USC, Florida State. Some of these schools are schools that don't necessarily they don't want to lose guys that they have to the other ones like Ohio State, Texas, USC, hopefully if they can get there together. Don't want to add another day on the calendar where people are running around, expose themselves to injury because, like, hey, this is a long year. They don't have spring games in the NFL, and the NCAA season is almost as long as the NFL now.
Yeah. It's a really interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see how the spring gets adjusted. It's certainly you're going to start to see it happen this year. And Ohio State's even come out and said that their spring game, it's not going to be a spring game. They're calling it a spring showcase. It's going to happen on April 12th. It's going to be more of a practice style feel to it, opposed to your traditional scarlet and gray type game. I want to take a step back. We have an old friend, Spider. Welcome back to the program. Good to have you jumping in with us here. Will it be on BTN? I can only assume you're talking about the pro day. I don't know this right now. We'll follow up with this here in a couple shows, but potentially, if I were to guess, I would say yes, it will be on BTN, but do not know that for a fact. So we will come back. We will come back to that here on our next podcast later in the week. But big week, big month for Ohio State. We talked about it. We've talked about it in the past. Everybody knows it. It's no secret. Ohio State wins a national title with a senior-laden group. Right? There's a lot of older guys on this roster that they're going to have to replace, and really that has already started, right? It started last year. Julian Sayin already transfers in the quarterback room. You're looking at a quarterback room of Sayin, Devin Brown, Lincoln Keenholz, and some others. Obviously, Devin Brown decides to transfer, and it's going to leave you with a really interesting quarterback battle between Julian Sayin, who is kind of has the early lead, I'd say, from a hype perspective. Everyone's pretty excited about the young kid from Alabama. And then Lincoln Keenholz, we've seen him one time, didn't go great down in the Cotton Bowl 2 years ago now in Missouri. And then the freshman that has all of the hype around him, Taven St. Clair, an Ohio kid, looks to have all the tools you could ever want. It's going to make for a really cool spring, Kev, as Ohio State really starts to solve the question of who's going to be their quarterback in 2025.
Yeah, it'll be I think it'll be a fun race. I mean, these guys are all very, very talented. You saw the videos of Julian Sayin all over when he was practicing with the Cotton Bowl and all those passing videos, but then you see these guys come out and say how impressed they were with the arm talent he had. And I'm wondering if I don't know how quick on his feet he is, but if he has an arm talent similar to Dwayne and can move, look out. Because I've never seen an arm talent like Dwayne Haskins in my life. I don't think I ever will again. If he can do it, great. But I won't buy it until I see him pick up a fumbled snap and launch it 60 yards downfield in stride of the receiver in half a second. Like, it was the craziest.
Dude, some of those guys that you played with, you talk about JT, you talk about 12 gauge, you talk about Dwayne Haskins. Like, those dudes could let it freaking fly. Cardale Jones obviously could throw it, a country mile, it felt like. And they're talking about saying, not maybe in the same breath as those guys, but saying that his arm talent is through the roof. And really what stands out to me, you heard a little bit at the combine. Obviously, Will Howard made a comment about it, saying that, he believes it's Julian's time. But also the one that really stuck out to me was Lathan Ransom commenting on just that, Kevin. He had made mention that Julian's arm is live, and you're going to need it. Because there's going to be, there will be times next year where there's going to be some learning curves, right? We're no strangers to that. Saw it a little bit with Will Howard even last year, but you're going to have to remember that whoever does get this job, whether it is Julian or whether it is Lincoln or whether it is Tavian, like, this is going to be a huge opportunity in their lives, but also it's going to be the biggest moment that any of them have ever had. So there's going to be there has to be a little grace period. The problem with that, though, Kev, is you don't really have much time to kind of settle in. You open with Texas. Now, it's not going to be the end-all, be-all, right? If you do flip up in that game, it doesn't end your season, right? Where Ohio State is a prime example of that last year. But it's no rest for the wicked, man. They call that a baptized by fire. And whoever is under center, pulling the trigger for the Buckeyes in week 1. Going to have their hands full with the nasty and angry Texas team coming to town.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a challenge right out the gate. It'll be and they didn't lose a whole lot of talent at Texas. Like,
No.
The makeup of our roster was similar to that 2017, 2018, or 2016, 2017 Clemson team. A lot of seniors returned, a lot of leadership. And it took them a year to get back to winning another national championship. I mean, they dropped it in 18 and then won it again in 19. Yeah. With Trevor Lawrence. But it'll be interesting to see. I mean, that's one where there's going to be a lot of reactions one way or the other.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be Arch Manning's first time at the helm with nobody looking around. It'll be whoever's our quarterback with a lot of new faces. I mean, receiving core will look pretty similar, but then you look at defensively, you'll see a lot of new faces. Offensive line, you'll see a lot of new faces. It'll be interesting to see. I got a chance to meet one of the guys. I was down in Columbus this week, the Rice transfer. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Oh boy.
Big guy. Seems like he can do the job. I'm excited to watch him play. Great guy too. Talked to some of the Armstrongs. It was fun walking around the facility again. I had a meeting down there for work, so I popped in for about an hour and a half. But no, it'll be fun. It'll be a fun year. It'll be a lot of new faces. A lot of people you saw glimpses of last year. Arvell Reese, Steve Curry, whoever. I mean, Ennis, Darnell Tate will be focal points. It'll just be interesting.
It'll be awesome. And later on in the week here, we're going to get more in depth on the other position groups. So we're starting quarterback, running back tonight. We'll get wide receivers. We'll get offensive linemen. We'll flip it to the defensive side of the ball next week to go really in depth at each position before spring ball starts. So we know, or you guys all know, kind of who to keep an eye out for. So spent a lot of time talking about Julian. Guy to I wouldn't say forget about is Lincoln Kienholz, right? He played against Missouri, didn't play good, right? And that was a game that was really weird. Ohio State was coming off a really bad loss, and it was just kind of didn't feel like he got a kind of a fair squeeze. Devin Brown gets hurt in that first play. And one thing to keep in mind here, I'll pull this up from Spider again, is Lincoln's athleticism, right? This is a guy who, coming out of high school, he played all three sports. He batted 429, I think the number was that I saw. And then in basketball, averaged 19 points, 9 rebounds, and like 3 assists a game. So this is a guy who athletic as heck, knows, can do a lot of different things. When you see him, I mean, he's jacked, right? You stand next to him. He's a really physical character. It looks like, if he can translate some of that stuff with some of that experience that he's had, could be a nice little option. Just from my personal experience, personal anecdotes, Julian is listed at 6'1". I'll say this respectfully. I used to list myself at 6'1". I'm not 6'1", so take with that what you will. Looked like I looked kind of eye to eye with Julian. He's not the most physically imposing character, but a guy who is physically imposing, Tavian St. Clair, 6'4", 6'5". Some of his comps, wherever you look, is obviously different, but he was the guy who, when you play the video games and you make your Road to Glory player, and it's like the best player in the game, and you start in high school and you rush for 900,000 yards and 47 touchdowns. His high school tape looks like that. He played in small town Ohio against small division teams and just bullied everybody, just totally dominated. But some of his comps, Justin Fields was one that really pops up time and time again. He's going to be a really nice option. And one way that these guys can have success, Kev, is through the running game, right? We saw it last year. Chip Kelly, we talked about it a bunch. His offense, while it had the ability to be explosive, started in the run game. So Ohio State's going to have their hands full replacing Quinshon Judkins and replacing Travion Henderson. Both guys rushed for over 1,000 yards. Both guys are going to be top 100 draft picks in the draft here in a couple of months. But they're going to turn a couple of ways. C.J. Donaldson, the transfer from West Virginia. James Peoples, an incumbent, a guy who's got a lot of potential. And then freshman Anthony Rogers, who not many people know quite yet, but has the ability to be kind of that speedster, that take the top off type of guy. It's going to be a fun room, and they're going to have their hands full replacing 2 legends at Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, Peoples is getting comparisons to J.K. Dobbins from former teammates, I'm excited to see. I mean, they use the dual running back system well, and I think that's why they went out and got this kid from West Virginia, because they want to keep utilizing it. They saw how having two fresh running backs at the end of the season was so beneficial. I mean, it goes all the way back to that I can remember. I mean, you remember Derrick Henry and TJ Yeldon. Like, that was back in those Alabama teams that were dominant. Like, they like this two running back system. They like to be able to run fresh people in and out of there. And then we've had it over the years, but not as dominant as when I was there. You had Zeke Elliott would play 80% of the snaps, and then Curtis Samuel or Mike Weber would jump in there. But last year they really split it almost down the middle, which was impressive. And I wonder if that's what they're going to do next year, if they both play the same way. Because this kid from West Virginia is nothing. Like, he's not a bad running back in any capacity.
No, he's put up great career numbers at West Virginia. Finished last season, it wasn't his best year. 734 carries, 11 touchdowns on 734 yards. 734 carries would be a lot, but 734 yards on 163 carries. Never eclipsed 1,000 yards rushing, but we've seen that a couple times. Guys transfer to Ohio State, they get behind the best offensive line in the country, and things are different, and they can really show out. So excited to see really what they put together, because it's going to be important. You got to have a good run game, especially with a young and inexperienced quarterback, as Ohio State will certainly have, coming into next year. All right, Kev, we're going to get out of here with this, a kind of a fun one. How cool was Saturday night at the Shoe? I got the chance to go to the hockey game on Saturday night, the Stadium Series. Dude, it was pretty awesome. I'm gonna play a couple clips in here. If you guys were there, I know we got a lot of people watching right now. Drop in the comment section if you were there. But just gonna play a few clips. One is gonna be from the opening face-off, and the other is gonna be from the first intermission. I have some cool stories from it. But here, take a look.
Puck drop is also such a
pretty.
Oh, when we scored a touchdown. Let's go, kid.
So I play the second one because very funny comment was made at some point. It was like, the Shoe was read out. It was awesome. And someone made a comment close to me saying, I wish this game was at noon or something like that. I thought it was pretty good, but Kev thought it was really cool. The Horseshoe was the center of the NHL world, and Columbus showed out. 90,000+ were in attendance for a hockey game. That was pretty darn cool.
Yeah. I mean, you're never going to see the Shoe in all blue, but I mean, we were playing the Red Wings. Interesting. Would have liked more fights because they were drawing.
Dude, I thought they were going to drop right away.
I was hoping they would. I mean, the Detroit, Michigan, Columbus, Ohio, would have been great. You saw a lot of it in the Four Nations
shootout. Yeah,
it was fun, but it looked really cool. I know they did a nice tribute to Johnny Gaudreau and his brother. It was just I think Columbus ended up winning.
Yeah.
Goal or two.
Columbus won 5-3. Got a late goal, questionable goal. Probably should have been called back by penalty. I'm not going to sit here and be an NHL hockey expert. Not a hockey guy, but still really cool to see that in the Shoe. The Ohio State band did Script Ohio on the ice. Thought it was really neat, and the whole experience was pretty cool. They tried to bring in elements of the football experience as well as the obviously cool new hockey things. But the Blue Jackets coach, I encourage everybody listening to go check it out and go find it. Blue Jackets coach talked about how cool it was when the team they did it just like a Saturday. They did like a skull session in St. John's and then walked across to the stadium. And he just talked about how awesome it was, the support that they received, and how cool it was to play inside the Horseshoe here. So just thought it was pretty cool. Wanted to bring it up here. I know that here we go. From Facebook, that was absolutely unbelievable. Go Blue Jackets, go Blue Jackets! Right, they're making a push for they're making a push for the playoffs here. Get one here as well.
I had
from
no
Texas.
idea we were live on Facebook.
There we go.
Good
Yeah. And Kay jumping in from Texas. So really appreciate everyone jumping in and hanging out with us tonight as we talk a little Buckeyes. Kev, anything you want to hit on before we get out of here tonight?
No, I think my computers are done working.
Your
too.
computer said we're done. Your computer
I
just
think
turned
we're
off.
good. Let's just
Your
hop
computer
on.
said we're getting out of here. We're getting out of here on that. A lot going on in Ohio State world, and we're gonna have you covered all throughout the offseason. I know it's gonna get a little bare here. It's gonna get a little bare here over the next couple of weeks. The positive side is that Kevin and I can talk about other sports. So obviously March Madness is coming up here. We'll be talking some hoops along the way, but obviously keeping you guys up to date on all things Buckeyes. So subscribe to the YouTube, follow on Twitter, go read us at our website, si.com, right below me, /college/Ohio State. For my partner, Kevin Weike, I'm Anthony Moeglin. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight on the Buckeye Breakdown podcast.